Kaisui was born as a noble young lady in the elite circle of the capital, spoiled and willful by nature since childhood. When she was 10 years old, her parents passed away in an unexpected accident. From then on, she owned huge family property but lived in complete isolation with no one to rely on. Fusei was the son of her family's driver and had been taken care of by Kaisui for many years. At the age of 18, Kaisui gave him 5 million yuan as startup capital to support his entrepreneurship. Gifted with extraordinary intelligence and sharp business acumen, Fusei developed his company into a listed enterprise in just 2 years. He also successfully recaptured the family industry that had been seized by greedy shareholders after Kaisui's parents' death. The two got married logically and smoothly. After marriage, Kaisui mistakenly regarded herself as the female lead of a romance novel, relying on Fusei's unconditional indulgence. Doting on endless tolerance, she became extremely arrogant and capricious, arbitrarily formulating 10 harsh and overbearing rules to restrain and torture him. These 10 regulations were unreasonable and extreme in every detail. She ordered Fusei to return home before 9 o'clock every night and strictly restrict travel scope during business trips, forcing him to check into the hotel before 7 in the evening and never going out again. She compelled him to wash her personal undergarments by hand every single day, write a 1,000-word love letter by hand in dread, aloud to her without exception. She demanded a 24-hour uninterrupted voice call connection, which could never be hung up even during important company meetings. Moreover, she put forward excessive and harsh demands on their intimate life, making the already harsh marriage life full of torment for Fusei. Fusei endured all these unreasonable demands silently, uncomplied with every rule without refusal. Every time he was tortured and humiliated to the extreme, he would glare at Kaisui and warn her in a cold and fierce tone, stating that if she had not been his legal wife, he would have retaliated against her cruelly long ago. After venting his suppressed anger and grievance in front of her, he would turn around and release all his violent temper and ruthless means on his business competitors, sweeping the business circle with thunderous suppression and showing his decisive and cold side to the outside world. Kaisui indulged in this unique preference and special treatment from Fusei, becoming more unscrupulous and arrogant day by day. She took pleasure in bullying him wantonly, even painting his slender hands with gaudy bright red nail polish and inlaying colorful shiny diamonds on every nail, ignoring his identity as a top business tycoon and trampling on his dignity and public image at will. Fusei hated fancy nail decorations the most, yet he dared not remove them privately under Kaisui's order, resulting in frequent embarrassment and inconvenience in work and social occasions. Just as Kaisui was unscrupulously acting willfully and pushing Fusei's patience to the limit, a long-dormant world plot system suddenly went online and bound to her mind. The system mercilessly revealed the cruel truth to her. The world they lived in was an overbearing precedent novel. Kaisui was not the beloved female lead she had always thought, but a cannon fodder vicious female lead with a doomed miserable ending. According to the original novel setting, Fusei was the absolute male lead. He would soon meet the pure, gentle and tough poor ordinary female lead, who was trapped in a broken family. The two healed each other's inner wounds and fell in deep redemptive love. As for Kaisui, she was only tolerated by Fusei because of the kindness she had bestowed on him in his early years. Her arrogant and self-willed character gradually exhausted all his affection and patience. In the end, she would be ruthlessly abandoned, imprisoned and tortured by Fusei until her death. The only compensation she could get was a mere 5 million yuan, ending her life in desolation. The system added that the original novel's outdated precedent and poor white flower plot had been wildly criticized by readers for its rigid and low-quality routine. The original author collapsed under public criticism, abandoned the novel halfway and deleted all character settings and plot outlines, leading to the collapse and chaos of the world line. However, Kaisui's Protestant tragic ending still had a high probability of coming true. The only way to survive was to restrain her willfulness, reduce Fusei's disgust towards her, accumulate massive wealth secretly, and break away from the established plot. Realizing she was a miserable supporting character facing a tragic end, Taisui woke up completely in an instant, overwhelmed by intense crisis and fear. She suddenly recalled Fusi's long-term forbearance and repeated hidden warnings, and finally realized that he had long been exhausted and tired of her unreasonable troubles. All his concessions and compromises were only out of gratitude for past kindness and the bondage of marriage. After a thorough reflection, Kaisui completely abandoned her former coquettish and troublesome personality. She took the initiative to apologize sincerely to Fusi, carefully removed the fancy nail polish and inlaid diamonds for him with her own hands, understood his heavy work pressure, and completely abolished all those absurd and harsh rules. She no longer monitored his travel schedule at all times, and no longer forced him to keep company and write love letters, and transformed into a gentle, sensible, and considerate wife overnight. Fusi was extremely confused by Kaisu's drastic change. He carefully tested her true intentions, suspecting that she was pretending to be docile with ulterior motives. At the same time, the disappearance of all the restrictions and constraints that had bound him for a long time made him feel lost and uneasy instead of relaxed. He was used to being dominated and needed by Kaisui, and her sudden alienation and distance made him fall into deep anxiety. That night, Fusi took the initiative to work overtime and return home late on the excuse of busy work. He was contaminated with unfamiliar women's perfume, and had an accidental encounter and intersection with the new female assistant, the designated female lead in the original novel. Faced with Fusi's active closeness and deliberate compensation, Taisui kept cold and distant, taking the initiative to refuse intimate contact. She started to take care of her daily life independently, washed her clothes on her own, and completely put away all her petty temper and making trouble. The next day, Fu tried to ease their tense relationship by cooking breakfast in person, deliberately wearing an attractive pink apron to seduce her and show his weakness. But Kaisui rejected his kindness inferently and ordered takeout directly, making Fusi's carefully prepared breakfast wasted. His mood fell to the bottom instantly, and his sense of powerlessness became stronger. Soon after, Fusi deliberately asked Kaisui to deliver meals to his company on the grounds of physical discomfort, and deliberately arranged for the female assistant to create ambiguous scenes in the office trying to anger Kaisui, making her jealous and return to her former wayward appearance. Contrary to Fusi's expectation, Kaisui remained calm and rational throughout the whole process without any suspicion, quarrel, or gaffe. Her unparalleled sensibility and indifference deeply hurt Fusi's heart. He was angry and frustrated, unable to accept that Kaisui no longer cared about him. Determined to leave Fusi, I completely unbid farewell to her fate as a vicious female supporting role. Kaisui followed the system's suggestion to accumulate wealth crazily in secret. She secretly sold all the luxury bags, jewelry, limited edition collections, and high-end gifts given by Fusi over the years, and deposited all the income into an untraceable secret bank account controlled by the system. She never knew that every luxury item she sold would be secretly bought back by Fusi at 3 times the original price and properly preserved by him. Fusi had long fallen into deep and irreversible love for Kaisui. He was extremely afraid of her leaving, so he could only retain everything related to her in this clumsy way. He endured the pain of alienation, silently watched her drift away, and dared not expose his true feelings. In a short period of time, Kaisui sold more than 50 limited luxury sports cars in his garage and successfully accumulated a huge asset of 500 million yuan. She prepared a divorce agreement and a packing suitcase, planning to leave freely with sufficient financial support. As Kaisui kept alienating herself, Fusi's mentality gradually collapsed and became extreme and paranoid. The cold and powerful business magnate began to go home half an hour early every day, took the initiative to write love letters and put them on her bedside table, and took the initiative to do housework and wash clothes to please her. He tried to get close to her many times, but was repeatedly rejected. His inner possessiveness and unease continued to ferment and expand. On the eve of the planned divorce, Fu Xi chose to drink away his sorrows at a brother's party. In the private box, he confided all his pain and helplessness in drunkenness. His so-called close brothers, including Gu Shizhu, Zhang Yan and Qin Shi, dropped their disguise one after another and admitted that they had long coveted Kai Sui and coveted Fu Xi's career resources. Their false friendship and hidden schemes were completely exposed, shocking Fu Xi greatly. Kai Sui received a phone call and rushed to the bar to pick up Fu Xi. She witnessed his embarrassed and helpless appearance and met Shen Huizu, her childhood sweetheart who had left without saying goodbye in her early years. Shen Huizu went abroad with his family in his youth, haunted by guilt for abandoning Kai Sui in her most difficult years. He returned to China especially after hearing the news of her misfortune and became the important villain in this collapsed world. The accidental physical contact between Shen Huizu and Kai Sui completely crushed Fu Xi's last line of defense. Without hesitation, Kai Sui proposed a thorough divorce in public and turned away decisively, cutting off all ties with the past. Returning to the empty and cold villa, she was ready to run away overnight, but was forcibly imprisoned by the completely blackened and sick Fu Xi. He locked her in a hidden private basement at home, filled with chains, restraints and a large number of oil paintings depicting her fragile appearance. Tears of suppressed love, grievance and unease were distorted into crazy possessiveness. Fu Xi knelt down and begged humbly, discarded all his dignity and status, wore restrictive accessories to please her, and prayed desperately for her not to leave him. At the same time, the world line completely collapsed. Out of control, the original weak female lead broke free from the male lead's emotional bondage, fell in love with her female benefactor and female superior, and developed a powerful double female-led relationship, completely getting rid of the setting of relying on men. The collapse of the original novel settings also lead to the failure of Fu Xi's inherent physical settings. The system informed Kai Sui that with the author's abandonment, there was no fixed plot or character fate in this world, and every honest fate was completely free. In addition to the sick and obsessed Fu Xi, all his brothers and the villain Shen Huizu were deeply obsessed with her. The story ushered in an absurd and subversive ending. Fu Xi knelt on the ground in humiliation, united all the men who were obsessed with Kai Sui to plead for retention together. Shen Huizu even took the initiative to express his willingness to be a subordinate companion. Holding 500 million yuan in assets, Kai Sui completely broke the shackles of the vicious female supporting role's fate, stood above the persistent love and humble begging of all men, mastered the absolute initiative of life, and finally gained complete freedom and a dominant life of her own.